This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
And welcome back to another episode of the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm Nick with Phil.
And I'm Travis.
Thanks for bringing Phil back to the show, Nick. We missed him.
Had to bring him back from the dead.
The jersey kind of fits the vibe too, honestly. They got the bone Griffin on there, and you got bone Phil.
And he's got a bone fish down here that's eventually going to make its way up there.
Oh, that's right, he does. Forgot about that.
Super excited to get down there to get that jersey, to be honest with you.
Heck yeah. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another show. We've got a lot to talk about today. We have 3 Griffins hockey games to recap. 1 we're excited to talk about. 2 we don't want to talk about at all. We have some news and updates within the lineup. And, of course, one of our guys that got called up to Detroit, getting his first NHL point. We're going to talk about Dominic Shine a little bit this episode. We have to. And, of course, we'll talk about the AHL All Star Classic that's currently going on right now. The All Star game is about a half hour away. All Star Skills was last night, so we'll talk a little about that. But before we dive into everything, Nick, man, how you doing?
Loaded question. Oh, I'm good. I'm happy. Vibes are good. I had a good weekend of watching hockey. I got to watch the Wings quite a bit, so it was good on that end.
Yeah, what did I send the text to the group chat over the weekend? I was like, man, the only goals we posted on our social media platforms this weekend were from Toledo. Oof, there's a precursor to what we'll be talking about this episode, folks. Trav, man, how you doing? I know you took a spill at work today, but you're doing all right.
LTIR, retroactive to about 10:45 this morning.
There you go. But you still made it to the recording. That's all that matters.
Do we save money that way or no?
I wish. I don't know what our salary cap is, but it ain't high, I'll tell you that. But I will say, Trav, the new hat, man, it's looking good. Showing off the new merch to the folks. That's right. We have some actual merch coming out that we will have available for sale at some point here. We still have to iron out a few details. Trav's modeling the Toledo Walleye colored Hockeytown West podcast hat there. And, of course, we have our standard one, too, with our black and red logo there for the Griffins. We'll have those available. Some people are going to get them a little early as well. Some of the former guests of the show might get their hands on one. So keep your eye out. You'll see those around. And once we have them posted for sale, we'll let you all know.
I have to say one thing about this. You hear like the Wing Wheel talk about Coastal, like black marketing their apparel.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if that'll be Hawkins down here, and if somebody does it in Grand Rapids, who it'll be.
Well, based on the fact that what I think the reactions when we posted it, Jalen Smerrick's already reacted to it. Austin Kaiser's already reacted to it. If you wear one without bringing the boys any next time you're down there, I think the one on your head's going to get stolen. So heads up with that. You might want to make sure they're hooked up and taken care of. But yeah, no, we are excited to finally have some stuff to actually put out there for everybody to get their hands on. So again, we'll post them for sale here. Eventually, we'll let you guys know when that's coming. If you head over to Patreon as well, we'll post that probably in advance for them as well, so they can get their hands on it first there. So if you're not already a Patreon supporter, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check out the tiers, get the exclusive early access to the merch and any other stuff we've got going on over there. So let's jump in, though, to some news and updates around the Grand Rapids Griffins here, especially with the lineup. Obviously, still a few guys in Detroit. You got Dominic Shine still in Detroit, which I didn't get to talk about that with you guys last week with me being out sick. You got Elmer Soderblom still up there as well, and William Lagesson. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with William Lagesson, if we're going to see him back anytime soon, because Jeff Petrie, it was announced that he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks after having a successful surgery. So good for him. Hopefully he rests up and heals up good. But I don't know if that means we're going to be without Laggy for those full 6 to 8 weeks, even though the Griffins do have a full defensive roster they could field every single night. Do you guys have any insight on that I don't know about, or no?
I don't think there'll be any changes myself. I mean, 6 to 8 weeks, he's been up there for a while already. Why change anything?
He just hasn't played, and I hate when they're up there and they don't play. Like, get him back down here. Lagesson eats up huge minutes in Grand Rapids and is a super positive defenseman back there, being high up in the plus-minus category. I think he has the highest plus-minus of the defenseman on our team still at this point in time. So it's a big piece on the defensive side for Grand Rapids that's just kind of sitting. So I'd like to have him back, but I know that's not how life works, and I don't get everything I want. But it does hurt us a little bit, but the Griffins defense has still been solid enough outside of this past weekend.
I hope he comes back. We need him.
I would love him back. Outside of that, obviously, like I said, Elmer's still up there and Shine's still up there. Boys, I'm going to say this now. I do not think Elmer comes back. I'm going to start the episode off with that. I think he's not coming back to Grand Rapids. I think he's earned that spot in Detroit. I'm seeing it not just being said by us either. We're seeing it throughout Red Wings Twitter and other social media platforms that people are impressed with him so far, which for me, I love to see. Like, everyone looks at his stats and goes, yeah, he's not tearing it up. He's only got 5 goals, but the big part of his game everyone was missing is doesn't show up on stat sheets. And they're finally getting to see what we were talking about pretty much all season long. Did he have some bad games here and there? Sure. There was a game he looked like Bambi on skates again. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, like, he's creating opportunities out there and doing what he was doing here, creating space for his line mates to go do things.
So you don't think he comes back at all? The entire
I don't
year?
think so, man. I think he's earned that spot there at this point.
Even
Not
if
even
they're
for playoffs?
playoffs?
I mean, potentially. I mean, as of right now, the Red Wings are in a playoff spot.
Barely.
Didn't think we'd be saying that at all at
No.
this point in the year. That's a whole different discussion. But yeah, man, I don't know when we'll see him back. We'll leave it. It's not gonna be anytime soon. That's for darn sure.
I would agree with that. I don't think he comes back until playoffs. Until either the Wings make the playoffs and get knocked out, because they're not. I just don't think this team is built to go more than the first round. And I think the first round will keep a lot of fans happy, and people off of Yzerman at the moment with the Yzer plan. I think people are really seeing that Yzer plan come together now, though. It's what we've been telling people the last 2 years. Is just wait, these kids are going to be up there and they're going to play well. And now you're seeing it with Elmer and Marco. You're seeing it with Albert. And who else is up there? I can't say Shine, but just all the players that are, I mean, he's not really a prospect, but maybe an overcooked prospect at this point, being down here for 9 years. But I think at some point, like, you'll see him back down here for the Griffins. I'm assuming that they're going to go past the first round. The Griffins are, and being able to plug him into this lineup would help us.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, right? He'll probably be back for playoffs, right? But for the regular season, I don't see Elmer coming back, and that's great for him. Like, I don't want him to come back as much as I do want him to come back. We love having him around down here, but I'm just love to see this resurgence of his, NHL career, because everyone for a while after last season was like, it's a lost prospect, and look where he's at now, and that it's such a good feeling for him. I'm sure, to be able to shut up those doubters, but at the same time, for him to be able to go up there and play his game in this new style game that he's adopted after being in the American League for a couple of years, Red Wings fans are loving it. And that's exactly what we've been saying all along, is that's his play style now. So I'm happy for him, but I'm even happier for Dom Shine, man. First NHL point over the weekend, getting that assist on Larkin's goal. Like, what a moment for him. Like you said, Nick, 9 years in Grand Rapids, been a career AHLer this entire time. Said in his first press conference with Detroit, he didn't even know if he was going to play this year, thought about hanging him up, but his kid's starting to get into hockey and like it, and he wants his kid to be able to see him play, and that's kind of why he kept going. And then you look at the year he was having in Grand Rapids right before his call up, he's 1 point shy of tying his career high. You count his NHL point now, he's tied his career high in points in a season. Like, it's just a feel good story. It's such a cool moment for such a great guy.
And like, we've been beating the table for this guy too for like the last year and a half. Like, I think we had an episode last year that Dom Shine MVP of this team, and like, you kind of got dragged for this, Brandon, a little bit.
Did you're right.
And now maybe we should go back and find that comment and address that user, because look, you put in the work, you put in the time, you play to your strengths, you play to the team style, and you get your call up. I don't know why it took him so long. You would think Waddy and Lalone had a better relationship to be able to have that call up and go, but you see Todd come in, and Todd's really seeing what we see with these kids and just Dom Shine in general. So happy for him. Happy to get his point in the first, 2 games? This is the second game or third?
It's third game.
Third game, and he gets it on the captain too. The captain scores the goal, gets the point. I mean, hopefully somebody grabbed the puck for him. I'm sure Larks did, but
Well, I mean, you look at the guys too; they're all so excited for him, right? You talked to Carter Mazer on Friday night, and he was like, "I hope he doesn't come back. Like, I hope he gets to stay up there the whole season." Like, they all love this opportunity for him, and that's just such a cool thing. That's just how well liked he is in the room. And I can't believe I forgot about getting dragged last season, where I was like, "Well, they need a spark. Call up Dom Shine," and someone was like, "You're joking, right?" And I wasn't. Like, I was dead serious. So. Told you so. Anyway,
the other thing too is like you see like to go on Instagram the next day, you see everybody's story, like all the players they're like posting about Dom Shine's first point, first game. Like you see all that, and you just like I don't know. For me, it's just so happy to see that, and like Bergie even posting it. I saw Marco post it. I'm trying to think of who else had posted it that I saw.
Not even just current players that play with him. It was old teammates.
Matt Love,
Taro.
I think Taro posted too.
Almost everyone did. His story went around the hockey mediaverse so fast that night. And for a guy that we personally know hates post-game interviews, hates them. Sorry, Shiner. We know you do, but you always give us good stuff too. He's got all this limelight on him. I'm sure he was like, come on, man, I just want to go play hockey. And that's exactly what he went out there and did. What he dropped a big hit in his first game, gets a point in his third game. Hopefully we see him get on the ice again too. It's just such a cool story.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have him on the show at some point because he is good personality. We'd like to get more a Michigan guy, you know, like what's better than that?
Not much. Sorry, Trav. I realized we just went on a rant there and didn't give you any opportunity to add anything. Would you like to add anything to that or no?
I just was gonna make a. You guys went on a roll, so I didn't want to intrude.
Yeah, we did there.
I just was going to point out that Almer's got 4 points in 7 games. And honestly, I think the only way, I'll say this, Detroit makes the playoffs. You don't see Almer back in GR. If they miss, you'll see Almer for the playoffs. That's kind of where my mindset's at.
I like it.
The other thing, too, is if he doesn't come back, we're going to have Michael Brands-Nygård here. So, I mean, that kind of fills that role, right? Or you get Mazer full health, fully rolling.
I mean, I just hope by the time MBN's here, you can get his full name right. But yeah,
hey, MBN, the acronym kids, right? We just keep it short and simple for Nick.
I'll just say this for the Toledo fan in me: I'd like to see Soderblom come back because I think they could benefit from a player or two down there for the playoffs. But it's neither here nor there. As far as Shine goes, I mean, incredible story. I mean, we talked about it last week, but. The one thing for me that I really noticed is like he just jumped in and went. Like there was no jitters. It was just go, 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 and looked like he was in his within his game. He knew what he was supposed to do. He knew what he was gonna be doing. So just to go out there and play the way he's played, I mean, you have to love it. I know he didn't play the Vancouver game, but it's just all around a good story.
It really is, too. And like you said, jumping in and just playing his game. I mean, that's what he's done his whole career, no matter where he's at in the lineup, no matter what, if he's on special teams, whatever. He just goes out there and does his job. And that's exactly what you can love about any player that will go out there in this situation and, you know, help the team perform and produce. And that's exactly what he's doing. It's not a wasted call up or signing by any means. It's a great thing to see him up there doing his thing. So, good for Shiner. Still so happy for him. Still do want him back in GR, man. He's definitely missed in this lineup. But, yeah, outside of that, though, nothing else that's crazy updates-wise, milestones-wise, or anything like that. I could go on and talk about how great Albert and Simon are playing together, but I'm sure our friends in all the Red Wing shows will do that for you guys this week. But the only last piece we have is, you know, Carson Bantle with Shine getting called up was called to Grand Rapids for the Wednesday and Friday games, didn't play Saturday, and then reassigned to Toledo Sunday, where he played Sunday and, of course, scored a goal, which is what he does down in Toledo, and he does really well. So good for him there. But that's all the updates and news we have to go through before we dive into these games here. So let's dive in. We have 3 Griffins games to talk about. And like we said in the intro, 1 that we really want to talk about. The other 2 we'd love to just skip over, but that's not how this works. Unfortunately, we can't just talk about the good. We've got to talk about the negative too. But let's go back in time a little bit to last Wednesday. The Rockford Ice Hogs come to town. Central Division rival, a team that we haven't played much, but we're about to play a whole lot of through the end of the season here. And it kind of happened last year. We played them, 12 times last year. I think we played them a total of 13 times this year. It's a team that once these guys really get going against each other, it's a brutal rivalry that breaks out between these guys because I think that everyone on each of these teams just hates each other until they end up going to the All-Star game together. Then they're just best friends. But anyways, going to this game here, the Griffins come out of this one winning 4-1. Big win, huge win. Exactly what we need to do against these guys. Let me run you guys through the scoring. Rockford ends up kicking off the action here in the second period. No goals in the first, even on the scoreboard, even in shots, 7-7. Rockford, 10 minutes, 32 seconds into the second, gets the first goal of the game. The Griffins answer pretty much right back. William Wallander gets his second of the season. A beautiful goal, honestly. Joe Snively, little drop pass. William Wallander was already winding up as that puck's getting dropped back and absolutely rips it past the goaltender. Gets the Griffins tied with Rockford again here. Carter Mazer also gets an assist on that, which we love to see. No more goals in the second there. You jump into the third period. 3 minutes in, Alexander Doucette, who on this night was promoted to first line because Nate Danielson was out with illness in this game. So Deuce takes advantage of the opportunity, gets his sixth of the season from Tuomisto and William Wallander. Then probably my favorite goal of the frickin' night because so much happens here. Before we even recap the rest of the game, we're going to talk about this goal. Carson Bantle gets called up in this game, gets his first AHL goal ever, and then all hell breaks loose. Nick, you were in the arena. What did you see when this happened?
So I'm sitting up in the press box, and the goal happens, right? So I'm excited, and I'm like, all right, I got to clip it. So I moved to my iPad to start, getting the clip. And the admin for the Griffins starts yelling. And there's no cheering up there. You're not supposed to cheer. You're not supposed to scream. You're not a fan. You're silent. And she's yelling. And I'm like, what is going on? And I look up and I see Kosa down in the scrum. And I'm like, what is going on? Why are people fighting at this point? Like, why is there a scrum going on? And I look over and Kosa's there next to Drew Comesso and they're talking. And then I'm keeping an eye on them. I forget about clipping. I texted you guys. I was like, get ready because this is gonna get crazy. Because I know there's like a 20 to 30 second delay from live to being on flow, and I was like, I gotta pay attention to this right now. And I started taking pictures and start video recording, but nothing happens between Kos and Comesso. But a bunch of penalties happen, and I still don't really know what happened. I think somebody had punched Bantle, and then Cross got into it. And it just kind of spilled into all of that. And post-game was interesting, which we'll get into that probably at the end.
Yeah, so we're basically just reviewing it and seeing what happened, since obviously there was chaos for you and I could watch it on TV and kind of understand it through the replays. Bantle gets cross-checked after that goal, which, mind you, was a beautiful goal. Nice breakaway opportunity for him. Dekes Comesso out of his skates, essentially, and gets it past him. Cross sees the cross-check happen. Cross swats at the guy that hit Bantle. Then that's when all hell breaks loose, and Comesso gets into the scrum. Kos across center ice, comes in, and like you said, post-game was interesting because you asked him, you're like, what were you guys talking about there? And Kos flat out admitted, I asked him if he wanted to go, and he said no. And then we both just sat there talking, like congratulating each other on our NHL debuts and everything. And I'm like, that's such a hockey thing right there. You go from 1 minute, be like, you want to drop them, to, hey man, congrats on your debut. That's awesome. It's so good.
A goalie fight from Kosa would fuel the entire fan base for the rest of the season. Like that or a goal. I mean, the fight was going to be top priority there. But I'm surprised. It was crazy. I mean, the whole thing was crazy. Kosa's on the verge of like some major milestones here that we want to see, right? A goal. He already got on a point. Want to see some fights. It's just, it's getting crazy.
He won't admit it, but we know he wants one.
A goal
he won't
or a
admit
fight?
it. Both. He won't admit it, but he wants it. And I don't think Comesso wanted to. There's a big size advantage on Kosa's end if he tries to drop him with Comesso. So Comesso is probably pretty smart to go, nah. Hey, congrats, man. just an absolutely crazy sequence there. And again, congrats to Carson Bantle on his first goal. We're talking all about the stuff that happened after the goal, but his goal was sick. It was great to see him get his first AHL goal. Seager and Bouillon get the assist on that. Last goal of the game was Austin Watson with an empty netter there for his 12th of the season. Like we said, the Griffins beat these guys 4-1, outshoot them 25-22. Griffins power play goes 0 for 2, but the penalty kill goes 2 for 2, and Sebastian Cossa stops 21 of 22 in this game. So, yeah, I mean, out of this one, my biggest takeaways, man, one, Wallander's shot on that goal was incredible. I want to see more shots like that from him where he's just winding up from the point and delivering like that, because the accuracy was bang on where he wanted to put that from what it looked like. But at the same time, like, Bouillon, man, another point for him in this game, and just continues to just be that standout defenseman so far. Those are my biggest takeaways from this, outside of also, Deuce taking advantage of his opportunities. That goal right there put him on a 5-game point streak, which was completely under the radar for me until I saw it posted somewhere else. And I was like, oh, shoot, he really has done that. And, you love seeing him take advantage of those opportunities. But, Nick, you said post-game, it was a little interesting. Obviously, the Cossa comments there. We talked with Carson Bantle. What was the vibe in the room like after this game?
I mean, it was very positive with a big win. I mean, it's always, it's always better to go in a post game win after they win than after they lose.
We started already.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shorter wait to get in there after they win, and a little bit longer of a wait when they lose. So it's I mean, Carson was stoked. He was happy because we were able to interview with him, and then Coast was light. He was in a good mood. But I don't know if we've seen Coast in a bad mood, to be honest. So he's usually pretty lively. But yeah, during postgame, Tyler asked quite a bit of questions to him about the fight and what had happened. And I'm like, I'm next to ask, and I don't really know what to ask him here. And I'm like, thinking back, I'm like, oh yeah, he did. They were down there for a while. I'm like, so hey, Coast, like, what were you guys talking about? And he's like, I couldn't. Afterwards, he's like, I couldn't give you any more, but that's the gist of what we talked about. I was like, that's all right. Like, you did, that'll work. So,
I mean, when you look at where the Griffins are at right now, right after this game, still first in the Central, but with how many games they have coming up against Rockford, how big of a victory was this when you look back at it and you kind of see what's coming up? Because in my opinion, this was huge.
It is huge. I mean, it's a 4-point swing there. I mean, if they would have lost, that's 2 points. Like, we have got some out of division games, and they're important. Yeah, they're important to gain the points, and they're important to keep stacking. But your division games are the most important because that's such a huge swing, especially how close the Central Division always is.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed too, back to Bantle here, and that whole call-up situation, we've seen him a couple of times this season, but that night he just looked different. He looked more aggressive. He was throwing the body a lot more than we've seen him do at the AHL level. He was putting himself in a lot of good positions to get the puck to him. Like, it always seemed like he was just getting himself open to find that opportunity. Obviously, getting open on a breakaway there was a little easier, but even when he was in the offensive zone, he was always going to the right spots to get open, and maybe that's why he's got the funniest stat so far, probably in the ECHL, with 15 goals and 1 assist. He's always going to the right spot. He just can't seem to find the spot to set people up. Like, Bob always loves mentioning that on the broadcast. It's just how he has 1 assist, but all these goals. What is he, Travis? He's still the 3rd leading goal scorer on the team?
I believe so.
It's insane. But I just saw a new version of Carson Bantle in the American League that I hadn't seen yet, and I wanted to see if you picked up on that too, Nick, while you were there.
I mean, he looked a lot. So I don't get a chance to watch a whole lot of the Toledo games, so I would. And hopefully Travis is able to speak on this, on his play down there. But, I mean, he was all over the place. He was using his size. He was using his strength. At one point, Tuo just took the puck and he fired it into the offensive zone. And everybody went to switch. And then Bantam went down in the corner and just laid his guy out, turned around, grabs the puck, and he looks back for support, and everybody's gone. And he notices, like, everybody's switching off. So he's like, all right, so I'm just going to try to protect this puck. Turns around and loses his stick. Then he's trying to just kick the puck to try to keep it over there and for the guys to come and help him. And I think Seager comes out, ends up grabbing it, and then they cycle the puck for about 30 seconds in the offensive zone. They get a shot off. doesn't create a whole lot of chances, but I'm like, that's still 30 seconds. And like, you see a lot of that with Marco Casper the year prior is his board battles, like keeping it down there. It wasn't, sometimes they'll generate offense, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it leads to goals, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just like doing those little plays will add up. And I think like seeing Carson Bantle from training camp to now is a fully different player. So I'm excited to see what this guy develops into and see if he ends up coming up here more or what. Like he's a good size replacement for Elmer, even though they play two different styles, which Waddy talked about the next night with you.
Yeah, like the misunderstanding was where I was going with that, but we'll get there. Yeah, I mean, like you said it perfectly though. From training camp Bantle, where we kind of looked at each other and went, "Huh?"
Yeah.
To now, like we've obviously seen him tear it up in Toledo. Trav's seen that, but seeing him be able to come up to the American League, and this was probably the biggest impact he's been able to make in the American League so far over these 2 games that he played, which is really good to see in a spot where the Griffins really needed that impact with the guys that they are missing right now, not to mention the flu bug going through the locker room, which we will definitely be talking about that as we talk about the next 2 games. But outside of that, I have nothing else to add from Wednesday's game specifically. Travis, do you have anything you want to add to that one? Because I know you caught bits and pieces of that one as well, and that's probably one of the only Griffins games you were able to catch bits and pieces of over this last week.
Basically just that Bantle, I mean, you pointed out his puck possession. He's really good along the boards. You see it in every single game that he just continues to just like control the puck at a really good level. You see also his shot, he has a pretty good shot. I will say that he's learning to score at the pro level in Toledo. To see that come out and be a big part of that game Wednesday for him is huge. And then ultimately too, like you see a guy that, like you said, Nick, more physical. That really stood out to me. What was it the last game before he was recalled, which I believe was on a Sunday. It was probably the most physical game I've seen from him in Toledo. So just stuff that he's worked on and gotten better at.
And honestly, like I don't watch for board battles. I don't like it doesn't do anything for me. And like that play from him really stood out, and I was really impressed with it because it's not something I'm always looking for or I'm like paying attention to. But like I saw it live, and I had to rewatch it on the Flow Sports app, and I was like, yeah, there was something really there. Because I know Mazer did this a lot last year, sort of Marco, and they got really a lot of recognition from it. And I was just like, I just don't see it. Like, I don't get the buzz around these guys and their play here. But seeing it from Bantle was, I don't know, it was huge, especially from a player you don't expect it from.
I see it every game down here. I literally, it's every game he's doing that down here. That's just kind of how dominant he's been with the puck on his stick down here. Seems like every time he has it along the boards, nobody can get it from him.
Yeah, that's kind of what he did.
Exactly. And like I mentioned too, this is the first time we've seen Rockford in a while. We will see them 7 more times this season. And the next time we play them is not till March 15th. So between March 15th and the end of the season, we're going to see Rockford 7 times. And that March 15th kicks off back-to-back games against the Ice Hogs as well. A little pre-playoff series. We played them in the first round last year. Let's play them 3 games in a row. Not in 3 days, luckily, but 3 games in a row against this team. Stuff's gonna boil. Like maybe we will see that goalie fight. Who knows? Things are gonna get pretty crazy. But that's all we've got for the Wednesday game. Before we dive into Friday and Saturdays, let's send it over to an ad break here real quick. And then when we come back, we'll recap the 2 games against the Colorado Eagles in Grand Rapids and the All Star Classic. The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. Oh man, Patreon listeners, you guys are in for a treat during that ad break there, because that was about a half-hour rant between all 3 of us there about a lot of stuff with the team. So like we said before, if you're not on Patreon with us yet, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast and check out the tiers we have over there. The unedited episodes over there. Heck, our ad break for that point in time there could probably be its own Patreon exclusive episode. Let's be real with how that just went. But let's dive into these two games over the weekend against the Colorado Eagles. And I know fans have probably already seen the results from this one. And I want to preface one thing that I don't think is talked about enough with what the Griffins are going through right now. Like we mentioned in the Wednesday game, Nate Danielson was out of the lineup with illness. This team is going through one of those flu bugs that tears through a locker room. If it's anything like what I had to deal with last week where I couldn't be on the show for the 2 episodes, I feel for the boys because this bug going around, it's rough. And, the Griffins are dealing with that. And that's just kind of what comes with the territory of being a professional hockey player. You still got to suit up and get out there and try as hard as you can. But you could definitely tell just watching these games this weekend, the boys weren't their usual selves with what they're dealing with. Luckily, there's a full week off with this All-Star break after these 2 games to hopefully everyone can get healthy and ready to go against Milwaukee on the road next weekend. But I do want to preface that with this because it's, again, you ask the coach, it's not an excuse. You still got to suit up. Your professional hockey player. You got to go out there and give your best. But from a fan perspective, it's something that I feel is important for everyone to understand and know when you look at these results. Because, yeah, they're not pretty. Like, let's just put that out there. They're not pretty. But also at the same time, Colorado, a really good team, a really fast-paced team, a really smart team with how they approach their play on ice, a well-coached team. So the Griffins were up for a challenge already going into these 2 games with this bug going around the room. And then you add a really good Colorado team into the mix. It was a rough weekend. So Friday's game, I would talk about Griffins goals, but there was none. The Colorado Eagles win this one 2-0. We asked Coach Watson at the end of the game what he thought of this game, and he said it was a chess match. And honestly, from observation from the press box, it was a chess match. Colorado was really good at anticipating Grand Rapids' plays in this one. Grand Rapids had points where they looked really good in this, where they were starting to get some momentum, but Colorado read right through it and was able to pick them apart after that. You look at this game and go, did Sebastian Cossa have his best night? I mean, he's still stopped 27 out of 29 in this game. He still had a really solid night. He was probably one of the better players on the ice that night. The Griffins' 4th line was easily one of my favorites in this game, just because it's 3 guys that haven't played much together this season, and also 3 guys that haven't produced much this season when you look at the score sheet, but they were playing their heart out in this game, looking like they were really playing for a roster spot, honestly, and let's kind of be real. It's what a couple of them were. That line was Carson Bantle, Gabriel Seeger, and Cross Hanas. Carson Bantle was using his size, being a menace out there, creating space for those guys. Cross Hanas skating like the wind that night. I don't think he was sick. He looked great. And that's one thing I'm starting to notice more and more is Cross Hanas' skating is suddenly getting way better as of recently. It's obviously we still need him to get some points, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But at the same time, that line just really impressed me. We brought it up in post game. I think there was miscommunication with the way I asked the question. But at the same time, I think they overall had a really good game. But yeah, this is just one of those games where the better team in this game won, and Colorado, man, they came in ready to play. And maybe games for them when they get to play in lower elevation, they get more jump in their step. I don't know, but man, it was a rough one. And it was also funny when we look back at this. When we started this show covering the Toledo Walleye, the first playoffs that we watched and got to cover, the goaltender for the Idaho Steelheads was Adam Scheel, and the goaltender for the Colorado Eagles this weekend was Adam Scheel. And he kind of stole the show for the Steelheads back in that playoff series, and that's what it kind of looked like this weekend, some points and times too. He was outstanding. But outside of that, that's really all there is to say with Friday's game. I mean, Nick, do you have anything else you want to add outside of what I just said there?
I mean, when we got to Friday's game, I looked at you and I was like, have they announced the starting goaltender for the other team? And you're like, no. And I'm like, I can tell you who it's going to be. It's going to be Adam Scheel. And Scheel played a fantastic game. I mean, we looked slow. We looked out of it. I think that's just them being sick. There was a lot of rumors flying around Wednesday night when people were out sick, but everybody is sick, just about in
everybody.
That room. Yeah, so it's. I know Bob. Like I was listening to Bob. He was telling Tyler that he was sick. Tyler was telling us that he was sick, and the Griffins PR people were saying they're sick. So, I mean, it was just a terrible timing. You get some call-ups, you get some people that are sick, it's a slow game. I went through the stats the next day because I just like we were going to ask Waddy at post game about his struggles with Adam Shield, and I went back through the stats, and we actually did pretty good against Adam Shield in the AHL. He just had him in the ECHL, which stood out to you and I because that's when we started covering Toledo. So I was surprised. Well, and we'll get to that. We'll get to Saturday's game later, but. I mean, he played well. He saw the puck. He saw the puck really well. Stopped all of them. So I mean, that's the biggest thing that stood out. I don't really like the lineups that night. I mean, I think you could have put Doucette, Banto, and Seeger together. Kind of mixed it up a little bit. I mean, you're keeping Snively, Dries, and Mazur together to try to create some chemistry and get Mazur going from being back, and I mean that makes sense. The Gettinger, Danielson, Watson, that's kind of confusing to me, but they're just kind of throwing it out there, trying to see what they can to get. They need some momentum, so yeah, it was just a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the lineup in this one. I would have liked to see Doucette stay in the first line after how we played Wednesday. I think he could have been really nice with Danielson and Watson on that first line there. Nothing against Tim Gettinger, but at the same time, I just think Deuce is playing at a different level right now, and I think he's earned some of those opportunities. So I hope we can see him work his way back up there. I would like to ask Coach like what a guy like him has to do to really earn that consistent spot up the lineup. And like you said, you don't want to break up the Snively, Dries, Mazur line. That was a line that we saw teased in the red and white game back in training camp, and it was really impressive in that game. And when they've played together throughout the season, it's looked really good. I mean, Shine has been playing with Dries and Snively all season as well, and that's looked really well, a really good line. But yeah, this was just not a fun game. Like, let's be real. I mean, the only fun part about it, and I guess I'll speak from the fan perspective, it looked like the crowd was a great crowd that night. The fans were really into it all the way through. And I'll give the Griffins some credit here. The in-arena entertainment that night, I don't know if they took some time off and reevaluated things. We saw a lot of new stuff that we haven't seen, that the production value of was a lot higher than what I'm used to. And the fans were really bought into it. And I can appreciate that. Just from the fan perspective, and they kept him in it through that whole game with a 2-0 shutout like that. That's hard to do. So I'll give the Grand Rapids Griffins back end team some credit there for definitely putting in some upgrades around the rink and making some things a lot nicer for the fan experience. But I mean, Trav, anything else you want to add for Friday there? I know you didn't watch this game. You were too busy having fun down in Toledo.
Having fun in Toledo, I was plowing snow.
That's right, you were working.
No, I mean, I guess I'll just say it now. I mean, Waddy struggles with Colorado Eagles as a whole.
He does. Struggles with West Coast teams.
Well, I mean, even back to when they were in the Coast, he's struggled with Colorado. So that's an organization that, for whatever reason, just has his number.
I don't understand.
Why are you laughing? It's factual.
It's so weird. It's weird to think because I forgot Colorado was in the Coast.
Yeah.
So that's why I was laughing.
I wish we would have, because he struggles with him.
No, I guess we should have brought that up. It would have been a better point than the Adam Shield point. So
that's true. It would have been. We'll move into Saturday's game here, and this one even more rough than Friday's game. You go into this game, we looked at the lineup, maybe thinking something would change back up. Maybe we would see a Doucette end up back in the first line there. Top three lines stayed the same. The only change was Carson Bantle came out Saturday night, and Hunter Johannes goes in. But the same result, the Griffins lose. And this one here.
Well, they swapped the defensive pairings as well. So Dello came in with Vero at the bottom pair and Didier and Bouillon. Whereas the night prior, you had Vero and Didier together and then Bouillon and Rafferty. So you did have that change as well, besides the goalie changes.
Was that
Thanks
due
for
to
catching
sickness?
me there.
Sorry.
Was that like a sickness thing? Do we know?
We can only assume. Honestly, we don't know. I didn't ask for specifics from Coach on that one. I didn't want him to get into real specifics on who's exactly sick. But we'll just assume probably sickness.
I just wondered. I wasn't even in the area that night.
Exactly. The only other change in the lineup that night was Ville Husso got the start instead of Sebastian Kosa, which we kind of assumed would happen with Kosa having to travel to the All-Star game literally Sunday morning. So we didn't think he'd be playing back-to-back games.
And then Jack came in relief, right?
Yes, Jack came in relief. So that's the way that game starts there with the lineup. Again, we were hoping to see something change there, but scoring in this game, all Colorado. They win this one 6-0. Ville Husso lets in 3 goals in the first period, and they come out for the second period. Jack Campbell's in net. I don't see Ville Husso on the bench. I'm immediately concerned that he got hurt and that
Traded.
he tried to play through it. I didn't think he got traded. No, Nick. But at the same time, that my immediate concern is he got something tweaked and he tried to make it through the period and couldn't, and that would explain maybe one of the goals. We find out after the game, Ville Husso was so sick he couldn't even sit on the bench to finish the game. They pulled him out because he was ill, not because of the 3 goals. And he didn't even get to sit on the bench because he was feeling that sick. When we say this bug's going around the room, guys, it really is. So that right there kind of set the tone for just a rough night. But like I said, Colorado 6 goals here, 3 against Jack, 3 against Husso. Colorado converted in 2 of the 3 power plays they had. The Griffins failed to convert on all 4 chances they had in the power play. Just another one of those nights where you're like, dang, this sucks. Like after how Friday went, to come back and get shut out again, which we should mention, it's the first time since 2016 the Griffins have been shut out in back-to-back games, but it's the first time ever they've been shut out by the same goaltender in consecutive nights in general. It's the first time ever that has happened. So this flu bug is definitely made it interesting for the team. Let's just leave it at that, I guess, right? But I don't really have anything much to add to this one. I mean, Hunter came into this game and I thought Hunter played well. I thought he was extremely aggressive in his play, really strong on the forecheck. But outside of that, the team, it was kind of just copy paste the night before. And when we asked Coach Watson, the first question I asked him, you called last night's game a chess match. What do you call the Knights? And he said it was an immature game by his team. Trying to make 82-foot stretch passes against this Colorado team is just not the way to do it. They weren't playing their game, and they played against a very mature, smart Colorado team. And that answer surprised me. I didn't really see that answer coming from him to flat out call it out like that, but he nailed it spot on.
The one thing that I do want to add to that too, so you went through some of these stats. The last time that they were consecutive times that they were shut out by one goalie was Milwaukee in 2022. So Connor Ingram got him on the 26th and then the 29th. So there was a game in between.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, this is the 3rd time in history that they were shut out and allowed a hat trick since May 12th, Chicago 7-0. And
May 12th of what year?
2021.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's
Chicago was a wagon that year.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel it's the sickness. They're just so sick that they've got this big break. I'm just looking forward to them resting, recovering, staying away from each other, I hope, and getting over this. Or maybe they all just like go into one room and stay over at one person's house. Everybody just get sick and be done with it after this week. I don't know. So it's disappointing, right? Not playing the game that they want to. When they played Manitoba the last week, the short passes worked really well. And for them to switch up and play these long passes, stretch passes, which is something we saw super familiar down in Toledo with Waddy, but it doesn't work up here. Like he hasn't gone to that style. He hasn't played that way. Those short, crisp passes that are quick, that's what's been beating opponents. And if they can get that going and getting the defense involved, you're going to continue to see these win streaks. And that just hasn't been happening the last couple games. So,
yeah,
hopefully next week it's going to be better.
I think it will. I mean, you can't take these 2 games and try to sample, or take these 2 game samples and go, the whole season's over or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's a rough weekend.
Can't hit the panic button.
You can't. You cannot hit the panic button, Nick. No, I mean, yeah, this weekend sucked. I mean, for us, being there covering these games, it was tough, man. But at the same time, I was really happy with the way Coach responded in post game Saturday night, because he was open and honest about how he felt about how his team played, and he didn't let the flu bug be an excuse. He, flat out told me, he's like, I don't even think that's a question that needs to be asked. Yeah. When I asked him, how much of the roster, just give me a guess, and like how much of the roster is actually impacted. He won't let that stand as an excuse. And those were the answers I wasn't ready for, because with Dan Watson, you get a lot of the same answers sometimes. But at the same time, I loved those answers because it just kind of reassured you that you won't see performance like this again. There's no way they repeat these results like this, because I don't think he's going to allow it to happen. And if he's not going to allow it to happen, the guy that sat behind me in his stall with his head down the entire time I was in postgame, Austin Watson there, he's not going to let it happen. He was not happy after that game, and you could tell. And you like when the guys take it like that, right? they take this personally. They don't like these results just as much as the fans don't. And it just makes you feel like you'll see a different looking team. They're going to come out Friday in Milwaukee probably pretty pissed off.
I hope so.
And it's probably unfortunate for the Milwaukee Admirals, honestly. You know, you see the videos of the All-Star game of Kosa and Matt Murray being all friendly. I think that's kind of over once Friday comes back. So outside of that, though, nothing else to really add to this one. That is, there's nothing else more to talk about because nothing else happened.
I mean, I feel bad for all the princesses that were in attendance that had to watch that.
It was Princess Night. Yes, Nick, it's your favorite night. I know. I feel bad for the fans in that. The arena was packed both nights, man, and that's just not what the boys wanted to go out there and deliver. So you feel bad, but that's kind of my final thoughts on just those two games there. Just a rough weekend, and you just hope they don't replicate it again, and you move on from it. There is one player I want to talk about, though. We kind of talked about him a little bit already. Shai Booyum. Let's end this on a positive note here. This kid has developed so much faster than I anticipated. He has been a standout on that Griffins blue line all season so far, and he just seems to get better and better with every game. Like we've mentioned, you know, he's 10th in rookie scoring for rookie defensemen right now in all the American League. He's got 15 assists. He doesn't have any goals yet, but he's got 15 assists. He's got the opposite of Carson Bantle in Toledo going right now. No goals, but a ton of assists. But not just that, his defensive awareness is off the charts. He is so smart with where he is skating with the puck, where he is putting the puck, who he is passing it to. His vision is insane. And when we talk about a guy with, you know, like Nate Danielson's got a really good awareness out there, Shai Booyum probably right up there with him in his awareness and how he approaches the game.
Yeah, I feel like you see it a lot more out of Shai. Like, or at least for me, because I focus more on their defensemen and then the goalies, and you just see it more out of Shai or at least I see it more out of Shai than I do see it out of Nate. And just that offensive, like he has 15 assists, 15 points. He's tied with Ammo, and Ammo's been out for 2 months. But this is a rookie, like that's crazy, and the sky's the limit for this guy. I'm excited to see what he brings next season or the off season, and how much like bigger and stronger that he probably is going to put on some weight throughout the off season. It's probably the biggest thing that they're going to request out of him. And just to see him like push these guys around, be able to stay up a little bit better and control that puck. I mean, the offensive side, I think some of these assists were probably his shot was coming in. He gets a little bit more time on the first or second line. And he's already playing the power play. He's already setting the guys up on that end. So, I mean, he can only go up. And I don't know, what was he drafted? Second round?
Second round pick in 2021.
I think Eisman hit on this hard. I think I love this pick.
I do too. And like you mentioned the power play, there's so many times in the past few games where he's made these incredible saves at the blue line to keep the puck in the zone. Like we've seen Mo Seider do it a lot with the Red Wings, right? Making crazy moves at the blue line to keep the puck in. And you start seeing Shai Booyum doing that already. And what we've seen too in the past with rookie defensemen in Grand Rapids is they're sheltered their first season. Albert Johansson spent almost the entire first season on the third pairing. Simon Edvinsson spent a lot of time in the bottom pairing, then the second pairing in his first season. Shai Booyum's already on that second pairing.
Well, I think that was more because it was Ben Simon.
Yeah, probably. We won't hold that to but at the same time, like he's already moving up the lineup, and we've asked Coach multiple times just about his play, and he is very impressed with him. We're all very impressed with him. But the thing I'm getting more impressed with is just how his skating is getting so much better already this season. He was skating through the neutral zone Saturday night, and I had to pinch myself real quick to one, make sure I was still awake because we were getting pumped 6-0. But two, make sure that wasn't Simon Edvinsson skating up there because he looked just like him. He was skating just like him. And that's a super positive thing to be saying about a guy that's this young that still has so much more room to develop, because let's be real, defensemen take longer than a forward to develop. But he's already out here doing this stuff. I'm agreeing with you, Nick. Steve Yzerman nailed this pick. There is definitely something here with this kid that Red Wings fans need to be paying attention to, because he's going to be a very exciting defenseman in the future. I know we all talk about ASP as that defenseman, and yes, he's very exciting. Shai Booyum is going to be a very, very good defenseman for this organization.
Yeah, it's the other thing too to notice with Buyam is he's out there last minute of the game. They pull the
Always.
goalie, he's out there. He there was a couple times in Wednesday's game he was diving, making saves when Costa was with rebounds and stuff like that. So he plays the defensively sound game and the offensively. Like he's got the skills, he's got the tool set to be able to do well in this league, and I'm excited. I'm hoping. I can only assume that he'll be here next year with Grand Rapids. And then get the call up later on, just because of the logjam up in Detroit. But this is a guy that I do not want them to trade. I was high on this guy coming into the season. I'm becoming more impressed the way he plays and how he has been able to handle himself on the ice and even in the media. He seems very like he's got a good head on his shoulders.
He's a very intelligent kid.
Yeah.
I mean, Trav, we've done all the talking here. Sorry, again, this is the second time this episode that this has happened. Any other input you want to add about Shai? I know it's hard because you don't get to watch all these Griffins games, but I know he's impressed you in the bits you've been able to see.
The one thing I've noticed really when you like watch the Griffins, or like in my case, watch the Griffins, or like if I have the Griffins on like my iPad and I'm watching the Wings on the TV and I'm like going back and forth, right? Like, or even if Toledo's on my TV and whoever's where, it feels like you're always hearing Buyam, Buyam, Buyam. And it's like, okay, you start to see it or hear it, then you put it together when you watch a game, and it's like, okay, I'm starting to understand why you hear his name so much. He seems like he's always in the right positioning for the most part. In what little bit I've watched, let's not forget he was 36th overall. I mean, he was borderline right on the fringe of being a first round pick too. 32 teams, it's only the fourth pick in the second round, so. It's just a good good thing that you had two prospects in Wally and Tuo that everybody is kind of like, okay, this is the year they're going to take that step. And then there's Shai, who I think has completely closed the gap on these two. You got three, and it really reminds me of like the playoff race in the NHL with these three prospects now. When you have like the Wings, the Sabres, and the Senators, and it's like, who's going to be the one to like go, right? And it seems like right now it's Shai who's just going. Like he's taking every minute and taking the most advantage of it possible. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I think he's a pretty good skater. But as a whole, he's really been impressive this year as a rookie. And I think he's like, I just was looking, I think he's like, what, 4th or 5th on the team in assists?
Yeah.
He's a rookie. Defenseman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the biggest thing, too, with defensemen is, like, if you can make that first pass, right? Like, and you're in your own zone, if you can make that first pass, that's a big thing. And I feel like I've noticed a few times with him that's one thing he is really good with.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I want to add one thing. So one defenseman that's getting a lot of recognition right now in the Red Wings organization is Albert Johansson. Last year, Albert had 6 goals, 15 assists for 21 points. That's what he ended the season with. And that was his 3rd year with Grand Rapids. So
Shai just needs some goals, and you'll tie him.
Shai needs some goals or some more points. Like I did.
He's on pace for 26 assists in 68 games.
That's pretty good.
As a rookie.
As a rookie.
Defenseman. It's like
on the third and second line.
Yeah.
Because he bounces.
It's impressive,
man. Second toughest league in the world to play in.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive. So I wanted to end the weekend thoughts on a positive note with talking about Shai Buyam there. There is one piece from the weekend in the American League I want to talk about because I know you guys saw it. I hope everyone else saw it. Chicago Wolves Manitoba game Saturday night was a classic 90s hockey game. And what I mean by that is there was 100 penalty minutes within 1 minute in this game. Full line brawl. Spencer Martin gets ejected from the game. That's Chicago Wolves goaltender. Both goalies still combined for a shutout in this one against Manitoba. It was a 6-0 shutout in that game too, ironically. But at the same time, just all-time IHL Chicago Wolves is all I saw right here in this game. That's all I could think about. These were the Chicago Wolves that I grew up as a child watching, like time traveled and played in this game. It is unreal. You don't see that in the American League. We saw 2 line brawls in 1 week in the American League this past week. before we
What
head
was
into the
that?
All-Star break.
What was the other one? Hartford, right? Wasn't it
I
Hartford?
believe so, yeah. Was just insane. So being two Central Division opponents playing against each other here and just utterly beating the crap out of each other, I had to bring it up because when you see 100 penalty minutes like that, you see in the total in the game, the Chicago Wolves had 115 and Manitoba had 75.
I wonder how many more
Insane.
times they play each other the rest of the season. 7,
I don't
8?
know, but I will be tuning in when they do. And I think everyone else probably should too. The Wolves got a new player in Turcotte, and he's
From Fort Wayne.
from Fort Wayne in the ECHL, and he's a shit disturber. He likes to throw his body around and likes to throw the fists. And I've already said in our group chat with our friends that him versus Austin Watson is going to feed families. It is going to be a battle. And that'll probably be the one that gets Waddy his suspension. Let's be real, because he's still one fighting major away from that 1 game suspension. He still hasn't dropped the gloves yet. We thought he was going to get it after Friday. There was a little incident that happened there when Nate Danielson takes a hit and Watson didn't even hesitate to jump in, but they only gave each 2 for roughing, which I was thankful for the ref for that one.
Yeah.
But
Correct
Would
me
he
if
just
I'm
have to
wrong.
sit the All-Star game, or?
no, I think I don't know if he gets to play in that or not. That's a good question. But
Sorry, Trav.
correct you if you're wrong, Trav. What?
And the Griffins play Rockford how many times in a month?
In the course
we played
of
7 more
7
times.
days or 7 games. Yeah.
That could be something to monitor.
Oh wait, that was Chicago and Manitoba though, not.
No, I'm just saying, like, you're talking about hatred boiling over. You play a team that many times in that short of a span. That could be something to monitor. You might see another one before the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Central Division gets tight every year, and when you start having games that often against the same opponent,
Yeah.
things will probably get crazy. Because you look at the next few games in February here. I mean, what we have 1, 2, 3 out of division games still this month to go. We see the Chicago Wolves again in Chicago on March 8th. I believe that's the last game we play against them. We played them so many freaking times. Oh, nope, sorry. There's one more in April at home there. But that's we'll see Watson versus Turcotte at some point during that, I'm assuming. And then, yeah, the Rockford games are going to be insane.
There's an old saying, boys will be boys. I think that best describes that game.
Yeah, 100%. Just to update you on the American League standings here so far in the Central Division, the Grand Rapids Griffins division there, they still do reign atop of the division with 54 points on the season there.
Wait, who?
Texas.
Who? Who's in first?
Griffins? Yeah,
Oh,
they're still
okay,
in
I'm
first.
sorry.
Yeah, even
Sorry.
after losing back-to-back games, they're still first.
Sorry.
You Patreon listeners will get that reference there. Griffins are still in first there. Like I said, 54 points. Texas behind them at 51 points. Milwaukee at 49 points. Chicago at 48. Rockford at 40. Iowa down in sixth, the first one out of the playoff spot there at 31. And Manitoba still at the bottom of the division at 26 points on the season. Still haven't even crested the 100 goals scored for the Manitoba Moose. They still have 82 only on the season so far. Rough go for the Moose so far this season. But that's all we've got for the weekend there. Like we said, the All-Star game's going on. They're on an All-Star break now. We had the All-Star skills competition last night and got brutal schedule for the guys from Grand Rapids. And a lot of guys are on the American League. You play Saturday night, and then you got to fly out to California Sunday morning. I think Dan Watson's flight was like 5 a.m. Sunday after playing the night before, or after coaching the night before. I think Austin Watson and Coase left around 7 a.m. Rough schedule to get out there, and then the skills competitions that night. It was 9 o'clock Eastern time last night. It was fun. It was a fun watch. The AHL, I like how they approach the All-Star game, man. They keep it simple. There's no weird flashiness like the NHL tries to throw into theirs. Like you remember the year in Vegas doing things on the strip and stuff. Like they're not trying to do all that. They keep it simple, old school, and they still do my favorite thing, which is the glass along the sides of the ice gets removed so the fans that are sitting there can talk and interact with players. Players will sign autographs and all that fun stuff. But a lot of good content came from that game. Sebastian Costa looked great in most of the events he was in. Austin Watson was only in 2 events. He was passing pucks to Podorowski, who was doing the accuracy shooting, and then he did the relay, which he was sure to point out in his little interview after the skills competition that he had the guy in front of him kind of set them back a little bit, so he had to make up some ground. But he was happy he didn't lose the puck and he didn't fall, and he's having fun. But just the cool thing for him, I don't know if you guys watched this interview yet or not that the Griffins posted, is just how much he's appreciating the opportunity. He's never done anything All-Star since junior, Austin Watson, and just the opportunity to go out there with his girls and enjoy that time together. It was a real feel-good interview. Austin Watson's this mean guy on the ice, man, but he's a big softy off the ice, and we've known that already all season. But it was really cool to see. So happy for him, happy for Coase out there, and happy for Dan Watson to be able to coach the Central Division out there as well. You know, the Griffins posted a video, or I don't think the Griffins posted it, I think it was Milwaukee. There was an interaction between Matt Murray, Yaroslav Askarov, and Sebastian Cossa, with Matt Murray trying on Cosa's blocker, and Dan Watson walks up. He's like, "Oh, goalie union meeting." Yep, and everyone got a good laugh out of it. It's just fun content for everybody, and it's just really cool to see these guys going out there and doing their thing. So I enjoyed it. I don't know if you guys got to tune into it last night, but I definitely enjoyed the skills competition. I've got the All-Star Challenge on my other screen right now, so that's why you keep seeing my eyes look off to the left the whole episode.
He's lying. He's looking at me. He's lying. So here's a question. What's your favorite event of the skills competition?
I like the way they do the shootout relay, the breakaway relay they call it, because it's just this constant flow of shooters going in on the goalie. These shootout attempts. It's not like, you know, they switched sides or anything like that. One guy goes, next guy goes, next guy goes, and Cossa only let in one on his last night. We saw Askarov doing Askarov things with his cellies. He did his celebration and did the walk-off, skated right off. I was like, that's so Askarov, man. It's funny because I can enjoy it because he's not in our division anymore, and I can enjoy the antics he's up to because he is an incredibly talented goaltender, but he's also a funny personality. But that's probably my favorite event of the AHL one. Who doesn't love Fastest Skater and Hardest Shot, though? They're just two classics. But the Hardest Shot one this year was kind of underwhelming. Let's be real. No Martin Firk. I think it was like maybe almost 101. So nothing too impressive. I mean, I still can't shoot a puck 100 miles an hour, so it's impressive, but nothing like you would expect with that. And as I look to my left now, there's a mascot game going on. Oh, my God.
Is Griff out there just being a menace to society?
I hope so.
Is he in the box yet?
No, he's not. But that was also my favorite part because the mascots are just, they're out in the stands during the skills competition, but there's so many moments where you catch Griff on camera. He was hyping up Dan Watson in the intros behind him. And then when Askarov was in for the, I don't remember what the event was. It's kind of, I think it's the rapid fire one. Griff's just sitting behind the net, just
I seen that.
Staring at Askarov. I was like, he's trying to be the main character of this All-Star game, and he is. But Nick, that's my favorite. What's your favorite of the All-Star game, Nick?
Mine is the three on goalie.
That's not fair.
I like the creativity, the cycling on it. The guys at one point were all in a line and dropped it back to get the shot. I like that aspect because I like puck movement, you know, and seeing the creativity on that side. But I like all the classic stuff. I don't like the crazy Vegas thing that they did years ago. And then my second favorite would probably be the mascot game, which they brought back this year. So I'm hoping we head soon so I can get a chance to watch that.
Yes, sir.
Trav,
what about you?
Mine's accuracy shooting.
Why?
It's so hard.
Dude, to go 4 for 4, it's not easy. It looks easy. It's not. I can promise you that it's not an easy task.
Hawk will tell you different.
Well, okay. To him, that's like picking cherries, right? Like, I could walk out there, and I've played hockey, and it'd take me a dozen shots to probably hit all 4 targets. I will say, you bring up Vegas. The one that I really did like out there in Vegas is when they had the like the islands out in the fountain.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was kind of like an accuracy pass, but you also had to hit the net, and you also it was a saucer pass, so you had to really get the distance right. I thought that one was fun. Everything else was a little silly, but Vegas will be Vegas.
It's just interesting this year that this is the only All-Star game we're getting, like the AHL one. There's no ECHL All-Star game and there's no NHL All-Star game. This is the only All-Star weekend that we've got. And it's not really a weekend, it's a Sunday, Monday, but at the same time. I'll
tell you what, though, I will take the 4 nations over the All-Star game. Give me that every year. Like, I best on best for me is something that, like, it sucked that we've gone 10 years without best on best. and you see guys starting to get hurt, and they're starting to pull some guys out. I know Canada's lost a couple, and Sweden lost a guy today. So that is going to be a fun break. And those games, like the Americans play Canada in the Bell Center. Like,
it's going to be electric.
That's going to be nuts.
There's other worldly factors that I think are going to add some fuel to that fire there, but we're not getting into that on this show. But yeah, dude, Four Nations, I'm so excited for. I love the jerseys. I honestly do. I want a Sweden Raymond one so bad. Like, I really, really want one. It's not in the budget, but I'm probably going to get one either way as long as I can get my hands on one. I know the NHL website they only had like 2 players per country, I think, available. So hopefully the Wings team store gets some. The Larkin USA one would be sick too. Those USA jerseys are clean. But yeah, I'm excited. Before we go off on any more tangents, though, in this episode, I think it is time to wrap it. This has been a long recording. I know it doesn't seem like a long episode for everyone else, but there's about 40 minutes of nonsense that's going to end up on Patreon there. So thank you, everyone.
I talked more in that 40 minutes than I did the rest of the entire show.
That's 100% facts. Sorry, Trav.
I don't care.
It's one of those weekends where Travis was in Toledo and working, and he couldn't watch the Grand Rapids games, which, again, he didn't miss much. Well, like I said, rough weekend, but the Griffins have the week off. They're back in action in Milwaukee this upcoming weekend. So, of course, follow us on social media for updates and highlights. We'll be posting stuff all week long, though. Updates for it's not the midway point of the season, but it kind of is, type of thing with some updates. So keep your eye out in there. We got some cool graphics we'll be throwing out there. But with that, though, it's time to wrap this episode up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this one. And, of course, as always, thank you to our sponsors, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST to save a few bucks off your order and support the show. And, of course, thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network for being great partners with us. Without our Patreon subscribers, though, the show would not be possible. We appreciate all of you guys who have already jumped over there and are supporting the show. And like I've said a couple of times this episode, if you're interested in joining everyone, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers we have. Check out the nonsense from this episode. But a thank you to all those who are currently subscribed. And those subscribers are...
We've got Alan, Derek, Elaine, Griffin, John in Florida, Lori, Michael Asante, and Claire Boughton.
Thank you, everyone. Claire is new since I've been on the show, so thank you for jumping in there, Claire. We appreciate you. And everyone else, we always appreciate you guys, too. We've got some stuff coming, and I know we're going to drop a giveaway on there soon as well. Maybe that's why Phil's in the episode wearing the Jurassic Park jersey. We might have some extras of those to give away, so stay tuned, everyone, over there. And like I've said, if you want to join everyone, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast and check out the tiers. Boys, thank you for a great episode, a great half hour of nonsense to go on Patreon. This was a fun one. I'm happy to be back. But until we talk again, go Griffins, go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.